Good morning, everyone. As some of you may know, Norma and I and our dog Kaya were away all last week camping, and we were camping in the southwest of Colorado. We had the opportunity going through different towns and things like that, stopping, picking stuff up before we actually got to the camping. But we encountered all kinds of different people. And people from different cultures. There were, families. There were single people on bicycles. There were senior citizens on motorcycles. There were all kinds of people. Some were slim, some were heavy set, and some had different nationalities, and some were carrying books. They were either students or something. And there were, of course, hippies in jean jackets that had pot signias on the jackets. And so all of this we passed through, and as we were passing through all of that, I kept thinking how the highest spiritual ideal is unconditional acceptance. Here are all these people living their chosen lifestyles, and everybody was getting along. I mean, there was no trouble. There was just people living their chosen lifestyles, and it comes right down to the truth that I have shared so often, that true religion, if you can call it that, is live and let live. As long as someone isn't trying to hurt somebody else, or you have some significant dark illusionary people like neo-Nazis who are trying to create some kind of suffering and conflict. Aside from them, human beings simply are okay with each other. And those that aren't just need to raise up their consciousness a little bit and get into the place of live and let live. So that was, wonderful, because I kept being aware of that throughout. Norma and I finally camped in the mountains outside of Gunnison, and we went on from there to the mountains outside of Telluride. In Gunnison, we were very fortunate. Outside of Gunnison, we did manage to get one of the last campsites that had some facilities, pit toilets, and but we had a beautiful campsite by the river. So we were really happy with that. But when we left that to go to Telluride, which was our destination, there were no campsites available, period. Nadia, nothing. Still is that way. So we camped in the mountains, in the national forest, without any facilities. And we learned something doing that. The first night we were camping, about 6 o'clock in the evening, the sun disappears over the side of the mountains. These are high mountains. We were camping at 13,000 feet in a tent. And about 9 o'clock that night, we were in the process of freezing to death. So I looked over to Norma to see if she was still with me. And all I could see was that she had a sleeping bag closed around her face. Only her nose and her lips were, could be seen. And I took my flashlight and took a close look. Both her nose and her lips were dark blue. And I thought to myself, I checked to make sure, because I checked the tag on her sleeping bag, because I knew what they were, but I checked it again. It said F 15 degrees. And I always thought that F stood for this sleeping bag is good for temperatures as low as Fahrenheit 15 degrees. But then it dawned on me, the F has to stand for fatal at 15 degrees. And I was really angry. My bag said fatal at 20 degrees. I can't believe that the manufacturers lied about these bags, because honestly speaking, it was not 20 degrees. It was maybe 30 or 32. I could see my breath. There was ice on the inside of the tent from our breathing. But come on, there's no way those bags could hold up in 15 or 20 degrees temperature. It was unbelievable. But the only responsible thing I could do was I reached down in my bag and got the dog that was sleeping in my bag, Kaya, and I brought him out and I put him in Norma's bag. And I could see his lips were also blue. So that really made me angry. And I took out my cell phone and took a picture of my dog's lips, because I'm ready for a lawsuit. Anyway, that's, if you don't get anything, I know some of you tune in when you hear about a meditation service and you expect some, soothing, gentle service. You don't want to hear somebody get up here and complain about sleeping bags and tents. Anyway, well, what is a tent for? Like ice on the inside of the tent? I can't believe this. What are the tents for? To keep you from seeing the stars before you die? So that was it. If you don't get anything else of this talk, don't camp at 13,000 feet in a tent. Yeah, we had to revive the squirrels outside when we got up in the morning when the sun was shining. And usually I'm pretty calm because I practice what I share here. So I had to practice forgiveness, which is very important, even under conditions like that. So I finally forgave Ridgeway Manufacturing Company that made the sleeping bags, and I think also made the tent. It might have been Coleman that made the tent. But I looked into the idea that the only real peace we can sustain is from within. In other words, we have to choose a higher path through the process of forgiveness and acceptance. And as I said, the last phase of forgiveness is unconditional acceptance. It's very important for us to understand this, because you will not be able to enter into the refined divine level of acceptance. There is unconditional acceptance, which is difficult. It's hard to look past the limitations, the foibles, even the negative, mean confrontations that sometimes come our way. And it's necessary for us to be in a state where we look beyond that. We live in a higher paradigm. So in doing that, by living in this higher paradigm of unconditional release and allowing, we have divine peace and divine insight. You will see this is the most amazing thing you can gain in life, is this divine peace and divine insight. But it takes unconditional acceptance and the work of that to enter into the divine level of acceptance, because your God consciousness, the Christ in you, does not come into your conscious awareness without the practice, the hard practice of looking past the foibles, the confrontations, the limitations that come into our lives. All those limitations, conflicts, and confrontations are really fully blown today in the world. Fully blown. And, you can listen to the prophecies of ages past about the last days and the insane conflict that is going to occur before the new age, the new heaven, the new earth, the new humanity comes into being. Okay, we either become the new humanity or the new age will not arrive. Here's where we're at. Eckhart Tolle is a modern day master. Years and years ago said, he pointed out in a very focused way the insanity of the world. And what he was talking about was the insanity of the thought system of the world, which is based upon the illusion of separation, has nothing whatsoever to do with the expanded level of awareness of divine oneness. Has nothing to do with that. In the world that we were born into the illusion, educated into the illusion, and convinced of the illusion of separation, in which personal self-interest becomes the overriding goal of the human being, which can only lead to conflict because every perspective, every personal point of view is separate and different based upon the beliefs of that particular human being, the beliefs he or she was raised in. So it can never occur that we will find a solution to some political organization in which we are finding a way to agree. The only way we will ever come into agreement of live and let live is when we enter into the divine estate of God consciousness, where it is God, not the limited intellectual thinking of the individual, but the divine consciousness of God that brings the insight of oneness and allows you to feel joy and peace and understand the beauty of life and everything, because you're able now to have unconditional divine acceptance. You're not struggling with the idea that, oh, I really don't want to do this, but I got to look past this idiot's point of view. You're not struggling with that anymore, because if you've done that enough, if you're in practice enough of unconditional acceptance, what happens is you're inviting the divine nature at the core of your being to rise. So God comes into your conscious awareness and guides you in every moment and brings you joy and peace and healing and love that you didn't even believe could exist. So that's what's taking place here in Unity. This is what we are practicing, which is the presence of God. Let me just share this PowerPoint with you about the necessity for forgiveness. Can we have this first PowerPoint? You can read this in A Course in Miracles, page 213, or in the new edition, page 225. Forgiveness lets the veil be lifted up that hides the face of Christ from those who look with unforgiving eyes upon the world. It lets you recognize the Son of God and clears your memory of all dead thoughts so that remembrance of your Father can arise across the threshold of your mind. What would you want forgiveness cannot give? What gifts but these are worthy to be sought? What fancied value, trivial effects of transient promise, never to be kept, can hold more hope than forgiveness brings? Do you want peace? Forgiveness offers it. Do you want happiness, a quiet mind, a certainty of purpose, and a sense of worth and beauty that transcends the world? Do you want care and safety that warmth of sure protection allows? Do you want a quietness that cannot be disturbed, a gentleness that cannot be hurt, a deep abiding comfort and a rest so perfect It can never be upset. How powerfully do we want that consciousness? That has to be the motivating force for us to do the practice that we're required to do. It's not possible. Don't think that you can read the newspaper, take your cup of coffee, rush into the world and say, I'm going to be good today. Forget it. Forget it. If you're not doing a daily meditation where you're beginning to experience the joy of allowing, the joy of forgiveness, the joy of unconditional acceptance. If you're not doing your meditation every day and taking your affirmation with you, knowing that peace is your goal, forget about it. Don't even show up here. I hate to say this to anybody because we are so driven by the media and its insanity. Talk about insanity. Is the world insane or is it not insane? I mean, experts everywhere now disagreeing about the coronavirus. The talking heads on the media never stop blathering away, and nobody seems to have the answer. The political parties are so divided now against each other. There is no partisan middle ground. The idea of being statesmen and representatives of the people and not of your personal point of view is gone. There's a madness afloat, and it's rife in this country today. And so we have to enter into a higher state of consciousness to know the right and wrong of everything that comes upon our path. Trust me on this. I didn't get this in school. It doesn't come from books. It comes from determination to know the truth about your divinity. And that brings about the practice that brings you into the higher paradigm, the higher awareness in which you know, just as Jesus taught. He'd run into these Pharisees. He'd run into these dark-minded characters that were out to get him and out to get their disciples. And they'd say, oh, no, you can't heal on the Sabbath. That's against the law of Moses. Oh, you can't take that cow out of that pit on the Sabbath. That's working on the Sabbath. That's against the law. And Jesus would say, now listen to this. This is beautiful. He would say to them, what feels right to you, though? Not what you were taught. Not what you suppose that your point of view should be honored, but what deep down inside you feels right. If your son fell into a pit on the Sabbath day and was struggling to survive, would you pull him out? They can't go anywhere with that. The political illusionary idea of life cannot move away from what feels right to you. If these politicians would ever take to task their own conscience, it would be a different world overnight. But it is about being right and about being important and about being intellectually savvy that drives them to these terrible places that are not in keeping with the goodwill of the people or the harmony of creation. So I'm saying this to you plain and simple. There are things that you may hear me say, and you say, no, it's pretty hard for me to catch on to that. Well, it's not up to me to get inside your heart and move you there. It's up to you. I can only rant about the reality of our situation in the world. And it is such that Eckhart Tolle said this years ago. The entire world will go crazy because it's driven by the egos of people. The ego will go crazy. We are watching that now. Our only out is to transcend the thinking of the world. And that can only be done by spiritual practice every day. And this is A Course in Miracles again. Let's have this next PowerPoint, please. You can read this in the same text, 2:13 or 2:25, God's plan for your salvation cannot change. That's it. Book was written over 7 years. Took 7 years to write A Course in Miracles. Helen Schuckman, who channeled it, never received a cent, not a penny, from the sale of it, ever. Because she knew God's plan for your salvation cannot change, nor can it fail. Be thankful it remains exactly as God planned it. Changelessly, it stands before you like an open door, with warmth and welcome calling from beyond the doorway, bidding you to enter in and make yourself a home where you belong. Here is the answer. Would you stand outside while all of heaven waits for you within? Forgive and be forgiven. As you give, you will receive. There is no plan but this for the salvation of the Son of God. Let us today rejoice that this is so, for here we have an answer, clear and plain, beyond deceit in its simplicity. Let's look at that again. That's just amazing. Who writes like that? Somebody who's trying to sell a book? Oh, everybody in creation is just about taking pieces of A Course in Miracles to sell their book. But here it is, straight and right on. God's plan for your salvation cannot ever change. You're not going to force the world outside through means political or war or force of arms to do the bidding that is required to heal humanity. God's plan is different, and it cannot fail. Be thankful it remains exactly as God planned it. Changelessly, it stands before you like an open door, with warmth and welcome calling from beyond the doorway, bidding you to enter in and make yourself at home where you belong. Here is the answer. Would you stand outside while all of heaven waits for you within? Forgive and be forgiven. As you give, you will receive. There is no plan but this for salvation of the Son of God. Let us today rejoice that this is so. For here we have an answer, clear and plain, beyond deceit in its simplicity. This is the stairway into the new consciousness, into the paradigm of oneness, of harmony, of healing, of peace. Look for it elsewhere, that's up to you. You can spend as much of your life's essence and energy as you wish. But when you get to the truth of it, this is what you will know. This is what will motivate you to practice. So we're going to practice now. We're going to have our Tibetan bowls calibrated to the different levels of energy that emanate and create mind and body expression that are called chakras. Just relax into the chakras with that understanding that this energy moves and spreads and expands and brings us into joy and peace. Following the bowls, we will have an opportunity to listen to and view a very beautifully made video guiding us in meditation. our eyes and flow into the majesty of this guided meditation. Are we going to get the meditation? This is not the one. We are given the opportunity here to sustain a peace of mind. I'll get them later, but I'll be at peace here. Is it a technical problem? Okay.
There is a space inside my being that is known as the heart. And when I have pure feelings for other people in my heart, when I have love and openness towards others, the heart is a place of illumination. When the heart is filled with truth and with pure feelings, I feel a sense of joy, of lightness in life. And it's as if I have no burdens. I am able to be carefree. But when I hold any type of grudge or resentment, that resentment becomes a cage that keeps me from my own goodness. Allow yourself to move into a space of stillness as you prepare to reflect on a question. Think of one person in your life who you hold resentment towards, someone that you can't forgive, and ask yourself, how do you see this person in your mind when you interact with them, when you talk to them, when you think about them? How do you see them in your mind? Chances are you see their defects, you see their weaknesses, and you continually see the mistakes they've made. And that vision is the prison itself. Now, moving back into that space of reflection, ask yourself, is that absolutely who that person truly is? Is that absolutely who that person truly is? Or is that perception of them a cage that holds both of us? To release yourself from resentment, understanding is essential. And most importantly, the understanding of our universal story. So take a deep breath and allow yourself to go on a journey beyond the limits of your perception, beyond time, and into the eternal story of the soul. Let go of the world that holds you and enter in to a different space. As souls, We come from a region of light, pure silence, where there is no sound, where there is no time. So just sense yourself there. This is where every single one of us come from. This is the home of souls, beyond physicality, an ocean of light, an ocean of peace. Allow yourself to be immersed in that ocean of peace as you remember the true nature of all living beings around you. All of us come from that world and we enter the physical dimension. We enter this world to play our parts on the stage of the earth, to experience life in the physical form. And when we first begin, the path is filled with joy. It's illuminated with the qualities of our souls. But something happens. After many births and after much time has passed, we go from a place of innocence and freedom and truth and soulfulness, and we journey on to a place where we feel more and more distant from our souls. It's as if we develop spiritual amnesia. We get caught in the physical, and all of a sudden, we experience loneliness. We experience separation from our soul and from God. And it's as if all souls become like orphans, lost and in pain. It is only from this pain that all of us have caused each other sorrow. When we have pain, we can only give pain. But it's not our natural nature. If I want to change the vision of the person that I resent or can't forgive, I have to let go of that small vision, that cage I hold them in, and remember our universal story, that we're all doing our best, and the only pain came from being separated from our own light. When I can remember this, I can begin to shift my mind to a place of understanding, and I can begin to see other souls as God sees them. And instead of demanding them to be a certain way, I can love them for who they truly are, who they have forgotten themselves to be. In this way, I will step out of the cage of resentment and return to that beautiful space of the heart that is illuminated, that is light, that is beautiful. When you are able to do this, you will once more travel the journey of life back home to your real self and to your natural state of joy.
As we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space, let us go forth with a greater determination to recognize the necessity to be awake, to be mindful in every situation, to turn to the more divine part of us and seek to bring peace, harmony, healing, forgiveness, and love. This is our calling from the divine presence that is life. And as we go forth, let us go forth with gratitude for the opportunity to practice the presence of true life. And to this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for Unity of Boulder now. Again, it'll be done in a different manner. You can take your offering in your hand. If there's something, a physical offering you want to make, there's a basket in the lobby. You can deposit your offering, or you can use your credit card in the dip jar credit card device to make your offering. Or you can, those of you that are watching this online, you can go to that tab on your screen. That'll take you to the place where you can make an offering to Unity of Boulder. Because we still are continuing. Our full ministry continues in every way. And your donations are absolutely critical for us to continue. And so now let us take our offerings in our hands, in our minds, in our hearts. Bless them with this offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. I'll say it again. You can think it through with me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
All the air is sacred, every breath we take. All the air is sacred, every breath we take. Unite the people, we are one. Unite the people, we are one. All of life is sacred, all created force. All of life is sacred, all created force. Unite the people, we are one. Unite the people, we are one. All the earth is sacred, every step we take. All the earth is sacred, every step we take. Unite the people, we are one. Unite the people, we are one.
We have a Monday night meditation at 5 o'clock.
No, we don't.
No more?
It's been canceled.
That's been canceled? Okay. We still have the Wednesday meditation at 7 every Wednesday.